18 months ago, I started learning Japanese through immersion learning methods. Whether it's called AJATT, Refold, MIA, anything along those lines, fundamentally it's all the same. This video is a quick update to show just how far I've come since the 6-month mark. Hope you guys enjoy. Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. It's been a while, but here we are a year later. In the last update, I left off diving into some basic grammar and vocab. I was using Refold's JP1K deck, and upon completing it, I can say the first release of the deck wasn't great for me, but I still worked through it, alongside all my immersion. I know they've released another version of the deck, and I've heard good things about it, but there's no real reason for me to go back and do it. So before I get into where I am now, let's do a quick introduction. My name's Amro. I go by Igirisu for obvious reasons. I'm a university student graduating sometime this year, sometime around the summer, so July-ish time. Studying Japanese for about 2 years, 18 months of which have been immersion learning. The first 6 months were primarily done through traditional textbook methods and just random YouTube videos here and there, but I didn't get too serious with my studies until I started using immersion methods. Right, let's start with Anki. So I'm currently working my way through DJT's improved Core 2.3k deck. I'm going at a pace of around 20 cards a day, and I'm somewhere around the halfway mark, so I should be done with it within a few months. I found this deck randomly while browsing some subreddits and almost immediately loved the layout. It's really well structured and very easy to review. The deck itself is focused on visual novel frequency, and it benefits me a lot since I find visual novels to be one of the best resources for an immersion learner. If you can stand playing them, of course, but I think personally for me, I really enjoy them, so this kind of fit the cause very easily. I also know there's a debate about sentence cards and vocab cards, like which one is better, what's more efficient, but to me it doesn't really matter. I just think the whole process should be fun, and personally for myself, I find reviewing these vocab cards with sentences on the front to be just what works best for me. Right, up next let's talk about immersion. Immersion material, well, there's quite a lot to go over. Previously I was pretty big on watching shows like Terrace House and just revisiting some old anime that I like, but I've been exploring a lot of new genres and just shows I've never heard of until this year. My absolute favorite show has to be an old one called Kekkon Dekinai Otoko, which is like He Who Can't Marry. It's a really fun show to immerse with. It was a lot more comprehensible the more I watched it, so I was really glad for that. That being said, I have still been watching Terrace House. It's just always going to be a staple for me, and they use very natural spoken Japanese, which just makes it more fun and interesting for me. Regardless of the season, I couldn't pick a favorite, but I think Opening New Doors is probably the one I recommend to people, just because the characters there are really diverse and I think it makes a good show. As for anime, well, I decided to make an Anilist to kind of help me keep track of the shows I immerse with. I'll leave a link down in the description below if you want to take a look, but there's not too much on there, it's just kind of what I can remember. I revisited some of my old favorites like Code Geass and Hunter x Hunter. I really enjoyed watching these just because there's always new vocab to mine. I'm fond of these a lot just because I grew up watching them too, but it all just plays really well together in my immersion. Some anime I'd never seen prior and watched completely in Japanese were Evangelion and Hajime no Ippo. So I had very big issues figuring out what was happening in Eva, but I was told after watching it that that's just pretty much how Eva is, which is fine by me, I guess. It was still fun to watch. Hajime no Ippo, on the other hand, I've been able to follow and enjoy so much because I never expected to like it. I'm not a fan of sports anime. The context is very simple and I'm always learning new words watching it. It just makes my immersion really fun and enjoyable. If there's a single anime I had to recommend to immersion learners or just anyone in general, it would be Real Life. Real Life is just my absolute favorite show in terms of anime that I've seen recently. It was extremely fun to watch and it has a nice, cute, wholesome story. Highly recommend it. As for YouTube, I haven't really been big on YouTube when it comes to immersion, simply for the reason I haven't really discovered content that engages me really. It's not so much that it doesn't exist, but I just haven't been able to find it, I guess. Everyone has their own niche when it comes to YouTube, but I don't know, hopefully one day I'll find someone, or if you guys have any recommendations, drop them below. I'm always happy to explore. So I saw a recent post about comprehension percentages, and the goal for me has always been like that 98%, just so I can understand sentences fully. So I'll keep working towards that, but if I really had to estimate currently what my percent is right now, I'd say somewhere between 85 and 90. So I can always follow the plot of a show, understanding like majority of what's being said, but I'm gonna miss a few words, and regardless of the show, I can still enjoy it, but I will have to look some words up. But then again, looking back to when I first started doing immersion learning, I could barely understand 5 to 10%, so the jump is insane, and like that really opened my eyes. Finally, let's do some reading talk. So, as I said before, reading isn't something I've been huge on. I've been trying to work on it because I know it's been stressed like how important reading is. There's a lot of immersion learners who just say reading speedruns their progress. And my issue is I have a really hard time staying focused when reading, so staying engaged is just something I need to work on. Outside of my Anki reviews, I built a habit to read at least one chapter using Satori Reader every day, just to keep myself actively, seeing more and more each day. But hopefully when I start playing more VNs, it will get a lot easier, because as much of a meme as the read more line is across the Japanese learning community, it is a core part of improving the language, and I think it will benefit me a lot in the long run.
The message is read more. If you want to improve in the language, whether it's Japanese or Portuguese, read more and listen.
I have quite a lot of shoutouts to do before my closing thoughts, so please bear with me or skip ahead if it doesn't interest you. When it comes to immersion learning, there's always a broad selection of tools and resources you can use. It's one of the good things I like about it, but there's one toolset I've used since the very beginning, so I feel good about mentioning them here. The very first shoutout goes over to the team at Migaku. When the browser extension first got announced, I didn't really think much of it, since I was using language learning with Netflix at the time. But the more I started to use their toolset, the more I realized just how useful they really are. They've got multiple things such as the Kanji God add-on, the Anki add-on, and the browser extension. And I don't have any affiliation with the team, but I've supported them since like the release of everything, and their resources help me on a daily basis. My next shoutout goes to Mally. He's known as MobileMally, and there's quite a lot I can say about him. He did a great tutorial on some tools in the past, including one called Game to Text, which I used for a very long time. I only had one encounter with Mally. I reached out some point when I was struggling with something and needed some advice, and I expected the bare minimum if he even did respond, but he took the time out of his day and gave me such a genuine response, reassuring me every step of the way, and just to do something like that to someone you've never spoken to or interacted with it's amazing. Props to him for being like such an awesome guy. I definitely recommend keeping up with his journey over at his channel. I'll leave it down linked in the description. But yeah, once again, thanks Mally, I really appreciate everything you've done. Next up, we have my boys over at the KoreKara Podcast, Eric and Raza. Nothing brings me as much joy each week as watching one of their new uploads, when they interview other immersion learners. I only engage with like 3 podcasts overall, but the KoreKara has to be my favorite. They give an insight to how so many different learners of Japanese and other languages think and react to like help each other understand everyone's process and what differs across each other. They have a really good vibe and always keep the podcast fun and interesting, so I highly recommend it if you're into Japanese learning or just language learning in general. Whether it's traditional or immersion, by all means check them out. And don't forget to absolutely destroy their like button, or Raza will be said. Up next is Livakivi. He makes really interesting Japanese content focused around his learning and progress. He does it in a way where it keeps you engaged, just indirectly motivating you to keep continuing with your studies at your own pace, rather than be stuck in a loop of comparison. He initially popped up in my feed after a Duolingo video because he did it for about, I think it was 3 years, I'm not sure exactly how long it was, but he kind of popped up after that, and some of his words have really stuck with me. Realistically, there are many others around 18 months which are just miles better than me at Japanese, but I think that's completely okay. Being fixated and comparing yourself to others just isn't a necessary step. It's best to Focus on your own studies and stay consistent. Even Kat said something along those lines.
No one cares.
No, really, I don't care. Like, especially like if it comes down to learning Japanese, don't listen to anyone. Don't even listen to me. Just do what all you care about is where you get me in. So don't like.
So don't care about the methodology. Just
doesn't matter how you get
just
there.
Get there.
Just get there.
And get there quick and fast.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
Don't do slow.
Just
okay.
Have fun. Make it happen. Doesn't matter how you do it. Like.
Up next, we have Jamal, aka the Phantom Madman. I haven't interacted with him personally, but I follow him on Twitter and engage with his tweets quite a lot. He's always tweeting what's on his mind, and I find it really interesting. I watched his final AJATT video a year ago, and it really kept me going and motivated me because he gave really genuine advice and stressed that you shouldn't be scared of taking like big steps because they're not as scary as they look. And yeah, I don't have too much to say about him, but I just wanted to mention him because his words kept me going. Next up is Journey to Fluency. So at the very start of my immersion learning journey, he popped into my YouTube comments and he was an extremely supportive guy every step of the way. I can't stress this enough. I have a lot of appreciation for both his words and enthusiasm towards me as we're both on the same journey. We're pushing each other to strive to improve, and yeah, his recent update was awesome. I hope he continues to do his best. So thanks a lot to you, my guy. Next we have Roto Ozeki. He's a Japanese native who's learning English through immersion. He showed up also on the KoreKara Podcast, which is where I first saw him. I really liked his vibe, so I decided to check his channel out. He did a tier list ranking a lot of the immersion learners and their current levels of Japanese, and I don't really watch YouTube in Japanese much, so this video was like one of the first. It was like over an hour long, but I didn't realize the time. I just really enjoyed watching it and seeing his overall personality. It was really fun to watch. Moving on, we have Hypothetical Tiger, another fellow immersion learner who's made really cool progress over the past couple of years. I remember it was in the Refold server where he popped up initially posting his first update. We're on a very similar time frame, but his progress has been really nice to keep watch over. I didn't interact with him personally, but I remember watching him from the 3-month mark onwards, so really good progress from you, man, and I hope it continues to go well. Next we have someone who isn't an immersion learner, but this guy was the reason I started documenting my progress. His name's Deni Mintsaev. I'm sorry if I butchered that. He learns traditionally and does things his own way, but I do respect his overall approach. I saw his 2-month update randomly a few years ago, and then followed by his 1-year update, and I was just really impressed by the difference you can make looking at the two videos side by side. I wanted to do the same thing, and honestly I can say it had the same effect, which was just really reassuring to me. Next we have Jouzu Juls. He was a random recommendation for me a while ago, but his content kept me engaged and helped me understand some pretty headache-inducing grammar rules, so I'm really grateful for that. He seems really passionate about learning Japanese, and I joined his Discord. I recommend him too. Our final shout out, StevieJS3. He's such a legend. I really enjoyed watching him when he first entered the community. He was a guy who dropped gaming to pursue Japanese, and he reached N1 in a short amount of time due to the sheer amount of time he put in each day. But the more you see of Stevie, the more you realize what an awesome guy he really is. He currently does a lot, and he's working with the Migaku Team, and he's always helping people on Discord with both tech-related issues or just Japanese support in general. I'm really happy to be a part of the same community as him. Some honorable mentions are Oziman or Ojiman with the Language Gains Discord server, along with Saito on her YouTube channel. They're both really interesting to watch and have like really useful content to Japanese learners who look into things like Kansai-ben that not many people, kind of put on YouTube. I'm sure there's a lot of other names I could mention, but off the top of my head, these are the ones I could think of. But with all the shoutouts out the way, let's go over my final thoughts. Welcome to the final section of the video, which is going to be my concluding thoughts and just some rambles to get off my mind with stuff that I couldn't really fit into the video. So starting out, I want to say that I'm really happy with where I ended up. I'm really grateful for how long I've been studying Japanese and for all the support I've had along the way. Some people that probably didn't even think they helped me really did along the way, and yeah, whether it's a few people in my university classes or whether some YouTubers that have put out really good videos such as Livakivi, and I've mentioned this previously, it's really helped me keep going and just kind of stay on track. And I know it's like a really minor thing, you're meant to be consistent, but it's alright to ask for help every now and then. You know, thinking back to when I started this journey, I didn't expect to kind of make it this far, or want to continue as long as I have, because long-term goals are just something new to me at that point, and I'm glad that I have been doing it because it's helped me build a lot more discipline towards doing goals and build some very long-lasting habits. It hasn't been the easiest of journeys. I've definitely hit burnout and just rough points and thinking disillusionment of wanting to just stop, do something else, but broke past it, did what I needed to do, and we're here, we're keeping up with things, which is, I'm really glad to say that. One thing I've learned is to be grateful for the people around you. If they support you, great. If they don't, focus on yourself. You don't need to rely on anybody else but yourself. This probably took a while to make because date of recording is February 22nd, which is somewhere around the 18-month mark. I don't track specifically the exact dates, but I try and do them around the same time. Yeah, so I'm in my final few months of university. I'll be done this summer. It's currently February, so sometime by July I'll be finished with this, and my plan is to put a bit more time into Japanese and up the intensity a bit because I won't really have any other big commitments. Just like currently I'm dealing with a lot of classes at once and I'm juggling it while doing Immersion and Anki every day. It's quite a lot to go through. Obviously I know other people do this. The one thing I realized though, don't compare yourself too heavily to others, or at all in that matter, because it's like Kat said, don't listen to him, don't listen to anybody else. Get the result and get there in a way that suits you best. Just don't go too slowly. As long as you get there in the end, your own journey is up to you really. And yeah, that's pretty much what I wanted to get off my chest. I'm really bad with impromptu thinking. I just kind of go with the flow sometimes. So yeah, that's everything from me. Thanks everyone for watching. I really appreciate if you made it to the end, and I hope to see you guys in the next one. Have a great day or night.